Hello everyone, I am Pakshal Mehta from Gopte Institute of Technology, Department of MBA. My USN is 2GZ19MBA07. Today I am going to explain you all about Consumer Protection Act and a few aspects related to Consumer Protection Act. The topics we'll be covering today are as follows. First of all, we will know about a consumer, followed by the concept of consumer protection. After knowing these basic aspects, we will study the introduction, meaning and definition of Consumer Protection Act. Then we will understand what are the rights of a consumer, followed by the objectives of Consumer Protection Act. We will wind up by studying about different redressal agencies. So let us begin with the topic. I would like to explain you all about a consumer. According to section 2, subsection 1D of the Consumer Protection Act, a consumer is any person who buys or hires any goods or services for a consideration which has been paid or will be paid in the future. A consumer is defined as someone who acquires goods or services for direct use or ownership rather than for resale or use in production and manufacturing. Let us understand a consumer with the help of a simple example. When I buy a mobile phone as a present for my friend who uses the phone in future, therefore he'll be the user of the phone and I'll be the purchaser. So me and my friend both are treated as the consumers. Now let us study the concept of consumer protection. Consumer protection means safeguarding the interests and rights of the consumers. In simple words, it refers to the measures adopted for the protection of consumers from unethical malpractices by the businesses and to provide them quick redressal of their grievances. Introduction to Consumer Protection Act. In order to provide for better protection of the interests of the consumers, the Consumer Protection Bill 1986 was introduced in the Lok Sabha. The Act was passed in the Assembly in October 1986 and it came into force on December 24, 1986. The Consumer Protection Act is a social welfare legislation which was enacted as a result of widespread consumer protection movement. It is made for the establishment of consumer forums and councils for the settlement of consumers' grievances and matters connected there with it. It seeks to promote and to protect the rights of consumers such as protection against marketing of goods which are hazardous to life and property, the right to be informed about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, standard, and price of goods to protect the consumers against unfair trade practices, the right to be assured wherever possible, access to a variety of goods at competitive prices, the right to be heard and to be assured that the interest of consumers will receive due consideration at appropriate forums, the right to seek redressal against unfair trade practices or exploitation of consumers, and the final right to consumer education. All the following are the basic rights that the Consumer Protection Act aims to promote and to protect. Before starting with the meaning and definition of Consumer Protection Act, let us understand why we need Consumer Protection Act with the help of an example. A person A sold a 6 months old car to another person B, representing it to be a new car. Therefore, B, the consumer, was a victim of an unfair trade practice followed by the seller A. So, the consumer B can seek redressal against the seller A. To solve such problems and disputes occurring in the market against the consumers, the Consumer Protection Act was formulated to provide consumers with a platform to seek redressal. Let us start with the meaning and definition of Consumer Protection Act. Consumer Protection Act is a set of laws formulated to protect the interests and rights of the consumers. It can be defined as a state or federal law designed to protect consumers against improperly described, damaged, faulty, and dangerous goods and services, as well as from unfair trade and credit practices. This act protects the interests of the consumers in the market. Let us understand the rights of the consumer. There are five important rights that a consumer has, which we will be studying now. The first right is right to safety. It is the right to be protected against the marketing of goods and services which are hazardous to life and property. The next is the right to be informed. It is the right to be informed about the quality, quantity, purity, standard, and price of goods or services with a view to protect the consumers against unfair trade practices. Next is the right to be heard. It is the right to be heard and to be assured that consumers' interests will receive due consideration at appropriate forums. The Consumer Protection Act has well taken care of this right by making available the redressal forums. Next is the right to redressal. It is the right of the consumer to seek redressal against unfair trade practices or restrictive trade practices or exploitation of the consumers. The last right is the right to education. The right to consumer education is a right which ensures that consumers are informed about the practices prevalent in the market and the remedies available to them. Next, we are going to study the objectives of Consumer Protection Act. The first and foremost objective of Consumer Protection Act is to provide for promotion and protection of the rights of the consumers. As mentioned earlier, the basic aim of the Consumer Protection Act is to promote and to protect the five important rights of a consumer. The next objective is better protection of the interests of the consumers. The Act provides for the establishment of consumer dispute redressal forums for the protection of the interests of the consumers. The third objective is the establishment of Central Consumer Government Protection Authority. The Act has the provision of the establishment of Central Government Consumer Protection Authority, which will protect, promote, and enforce the rights of consumers. The Central Government Consumer Protection Authority will regulate cases related to unfair trade practices, misleading advertisements, and violation of consumer rights. The next object is the Consumer Protection Act seeks better protection against exploitation of consumers against unfair and unethical trade practices. Another objective is to provide simple, quick, and economical redressal to the consumer's problems, grievances, and disputes. Next objective is the Consumer Protection Act seeks to ensure fair, competitive and responsible markets that work well for the consumers and promote ethical business practices. It also seeks to ensure a better quality of living by improving quality of consumer products and services by setting certain quality standards and important guidelines for different products and services. The last objective of the Consumer Protection Act is to establish suitable machinery to settle consumer disputes. The Act has the provision of the establishment of Consumer Disputes Redressal Commissions, which will entertain complaints related to overcharging or deceptive charging by the traders, unfair or restrictive trade practices, sale of hazardous goods and services which may be hazardous to the life, and sale of defective goods or services. The last part that we will study today is the redressal agencies. Under this Act, three-tier consumer forums have been established for speedy and effective remedies to the consumers, and complaints can be filed in any of the three forums depending upon the monetary value of the claim. The first level is District Forum. It is also known as Consumers Disputes Redressal Forum. It shall have jurisdiction to entertain complaints where the value of goods or services and the compensation claimed does not exceed rupees 20 lakhs. The second level is State Commission. It is also known as State Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. It shall have jurisdiction to entertain complaints where the value of the goods or services and compensation claim exceeds rupees 20 lakhs but does not exceed rupees 1 crore, and it can also claim appeals against the orders of any district forums within the state. The third level is National Commission. This commission shall have jurisdiction to entertain complaints where the value of the goods or services and compensation claim exceeds rupees 1 crore, and this commission can also claim appeals against the orders of any state commissions. With this, I end my presentation on the topic Consumer Protection Act. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative. Please do like, share and comment. Thank you.